Hi there, it's Pete, Mindwiseman's channel, aka Maverick Outdoors, and this is the first weekend in December 2020. I'm out on a TARP, battery to the max, wild camp in the woods. The pitch where I am, I've been here before, but I haven't actually been here for quite a long time. But I thought I'd just make a brief video and include some aspects that are a little bit different from usual. Got my engineer's pack there, multi-use rucksack, otherwise known as the turtleback. So the temperatures are going to get down to between 1 and -2 degrees. There's no wind chill factor where I am. There's no breeze. There's no adverse weather forecast as such. But obviously this time of year the weather temperatures do drop, and I'm feeling it first time this year. I can really feel. You can see I've got my thermals on. I've got a t-shirt. I've got a zipper fleece. Then I've got a body warmer, sleeveless body warmer, quilted underneath this camo smock that I made myself. Say there's a video that goes back, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, and I actually made it over 10 years ago, so if you're interested you can actually see how I made this fleece. It's lightweight, rolls up really nicely, but this being the 4th layer, I'm really toasty warm, but my legs are feeling it just a little bit. Albeit I've got my green version of my NBC trousers with the big old bellows pouchy pockets. And I've had this pair with my jacket, although I wear these trousers quite a lot. I mean, I've had these for the same time when I actually had the camo ones, which was in 2008, 2009. But these are really lightweight. They serve their purpose to come into the woods when it was cold rather than just a single membrane material, because obviously they're 2 layers. But I really like these trousers. I've mentioned it loads of times before. They dry quickly if they do get wet. They're very lightweight. They pack away really nicely if you're having them for an extra pair of trousers with your kit. So this time of year, during the early winter, and obviously all through winter when we get the temperatures really drop, when you're sitting around or not actually that active, you're obviously going to feel the temperature a little bit more. So my upper body is really warm with the 4 layers that I just explained, so I'm going to put my Softie trousers over my NBC trousers, and that will really keep me going for the rest of the evening before I'm ready to settle for the night. But instead of having an Arctic sleeping bag or a 3-4 season sleeping bag, as you know, I like to be able to move around at night, so I like to be quite sort of free to actually move around if I have to get up urgently during the middle of the night, and obviously for personal security as well. Again, you never know who's about. So of course I keep my layers on, but I will be putting the Softie jacket over the top layers I've got. I've got the second pair of Softie trousers that'll go over the first pair, so that'll be my sleeping bag set up as such. I'm a walking sleeping bag, and I'm going to be in the HOOPED Bivvy as well to just keep that thermal temperature enclosed within the Gore-Tex Bivvy bag. I haven't come totally sort of minimalist like I've done in the past couple of videos, but it's not extra heavyweight, but a bit more than I'd normally carry. But I just sort of got some creature comforts, just a real practical box to put all my food in, whether it's MREs or boil in the bag. I've got some new of my own portions of tea and coffee that vacuum packs, but in there I've got all my MREs, boil in the bag food, and also I think I'm going to have in a little while, I've had these before, I bought a pack, sorry, a batch of 5 of these, and they worked out £3 each. So British currency, 15 quid, 22 US dollars if you're watching in the good old US of A. And say 15 quid for 5 bags, so they're 3 quid each. Normally these retail anything from like £5 to £7 retail. So my cook kit in that little green zipper bag, so if you follow my travels you've seen that before as well, was the kettle turned upside down in that saucepan, and those 2 items go in that little zipper bag. And basically, just for convenience, I'm going to be using the camping gas little cook unit stove, and my normal legendary camo mug. So I think anyone that's been following me right from the early days of my channel will recognise that mug. I have people commenting when there's bushcraft meets and all that, and I sort of bring that mug to a sort of a social gathering for a brew, and they will go, "Oh, you still got that mug." But besides the savoury meals in there, what I did have earlier was some was these. I found these. I brought these up a few videos ago about corn nuts. Well, these are bigger ones and they're a little bit more crunchy as well. So I got a packet of these. So once I'd actually set up my pitch, I had those, and also had a sort of pepperoni type stick, so that kept me going, but I want to make something to eat in a moment. But say there's also sweet stuff in there as well, biscuits. So you can imagine everything that I need is just in a really sort of good heavy duty unit. I can pick it up, move it around, so no sloppy bags to move about, it's all contained in this pot. So I'm going to boil up some water in a moment and have that dehydrated cashew rice, savoury rice meal. And if I don't show you my sleeping setup, then I'll show you first thing in the morning when it's daylight. At the moment I haven't got it, I've got it actually packed away in my shelter bag. But I wanted to sort of try it out tonight, especially as it's going to be sub-zero temperatures. I know that it will be borderline with the layers that I'm going to wear for when I go to sleep. 2 Softie trousers over my normal trousers, my Softie jacket over my other 4 layers underneath. I like lots of different layers because if you just rely on one layer and then you get hot and take it off, you've virtually got nothing on underneath except for maybe a vest or a t-shirt, and then can get cold really easily. So for what it's worth, the weight and the volume and what have you, it virtually works out the same from my experience and when I apply it to when I'm out. So that's looking good. Vegetarian meal. Not because I'm a vegetarian, because I like the flavour of it. It's cashew nuts with also peanuts and dried vegetables and rice. So that's the second time I've had this, so looking forward to getting that down my throat. So I've been making these sealed bags of a brew, coffee, malt drink. This one's tea, got 1 tea bag, a big teaspoonful of full cream milk, Nilo, Nestle milk, and a couple of sugars in there. You can actually vacuum pack them, or just sort of draw some of the air out and just make sure it's sealed. But obviously I cut these bags to shape from my, about 8 inches wide roll, and you can either sort of cut a length off and then divide it into small sections, but obviously you've got to seal the edges. So that's my tea, which I made actually the other day, and ready now to have a brew in my famous mug. The beauty of actually these as well, considering, I mean, you can wash them out if there's any liquid that you vacuum packed for wet meals, anything like that, but I can use this bag again. Obviously I'll obliterate or just scrub out, and then right on the other side the more up-to-date ingredients that's going to be in this pouch. A little item that I've acquired recently. I was looking for something like silicone that was heat proof to actually go on top of a plastic tarp. It's a ground sheet, so that if you've got any, you know, sort of hot utensils, not that this sort of has got red hot to burn a hole in the plastic ground sheet, but I have actually had some cooking utensils that I've heated up either on the fire, sort of just, they've got nudged over onto the ground sheet and it's burnt and melted it. So anyway, I was looking for some stuff on the internet, on an eBay, famous old eBay. I found this, and there was it was auctioned from China. Took I think it was 12-13 days to get to me. It was only 15 pence. So I was the only bidder for 15p, and that's all it cost me. So if I do have anything that's scorching hot that I want to put straight on top of there, and it's normally small utensils, anything bigger, then I'll probably put it on a table or something that's a little bit more structured and off the ground. Okay, let's have a look at this Gore-Tex Bivvy. So again, I always say if you follow my travels you see some of these things, but obviously in different situations. And I haven't used this for a while. If you're not accustomed to it, I'll just give you a quick spec, or just a bit of revision on something you already know. It's got an aluminium hoop. You can actually get fiberglass ones, but I've got one of the original ones and they tend to fare much better in cold weather. Fiberglass can get somewhat brittle in sub-zero temperatures and be prone to snapping. So that's the aluminium one. It's in 5 parts. It's got 6 fixings on the ground, 2 at the head hoop, 1 on either corner, 1 just either side of the hook, and then 1 either end at each corner. It's got virtually a 3/4 length, the length of your body, side zip. And of course it also zips across and over the arch of the hoop. And when you do enclose yourself in it within the hoop, obviously where your head is, there's also 2 popper studs. So if you imagine that being zipped up, it's also got a no-seam mesh, which I've actually got rolled up underneath here. And if you want it actually unzipped, the actual Gore-Tex part can lower down, and then you've got the mesh there if it was getting a little bit warm in there and you want a bit of fresh air. And of course you see I've got my inflatable mat that I've got recently, quite a sort of comfy zone type mat, as you can see, quite thick. I've talked about this mat before, so I won't give you any spec on that as such, but the reason why it's inside is because I can't fit it underneath. So if you could actually see through this, underneath there's a diagonal loop there and a diagonal loop there. That's where the end of the rectangular mat would fit as a stop end to stop it sliding. But then it's also inserted through across a traverse loop which it would thread through, and then also then at this end, just before the hoop, there's underneath another 2 diagonals, so then the mat would actually stay secure. But of course the mat that I'm using tonight is too wide and it would buckle up either up or down. So I've put it inside, and where the actual pillow part of the mat is, which you've seen in a previous video, I've actually folded it underneath then to make the pillow a little bit higher, because I find that a little bit more comfortable being at a slight angle. But of course that does raise my head up towards the top of the arch, the hoop. So if there was a more narrow version that I had underneath, it would give me more space from the underneath of the Gore-Tex base to the upper surface. But of course having the mat in there raises the ground level me up by about nearly 2.5 to 3 inches. So in normal circumstances that the Gore-Tex Bivvy bag was made for would have actually the mat underneath, and it's actually made for a specific mat because that's a Dutch Army Gore-Tex Bivvy bag. It would also fit the standard mat that would actually be specially measured out to actually go into the loops that are actually underneath the Bivvy bag. And obviously if you do have the mat fitted underneath the bag, so it's not inside it, it's more practical compared to having a mat that might be a sort of size that's appropriate for, you know, protecting your body and keeping you comfortable on the ground, but it might actually slide about sort of sideways and lengthways. So of course hence having the loops underneath to keep it secure. But of course I don't think that mat is going to go anywhere tonight, because as you can see it virtually fits the whole width of the bag itself, so obviously is wedged in. First time I used this Bivvy bag was I think about 7-8 years ago, and I was in -12 sub-zero temperatures. It was about -8, but the wind chill factor on where I was camped, which was quite high up, was making it even colder. I had another 4 degrees, so it was -12, and it fared up okay. I did feel it. Sometimes the surface of the Gore-Tex can actually get cold. I've used it a couple of times on a canoe camp as well, underneath the tarp. So at the moment I can use this area now as more of a comfortable seated space compared to sitting on my kneeling mat when I was making something to eat and talking to video a little bit earlier on. Plus a few times this evening I've actually laid down on top of the Gore-Tex rather than actually getting inside it, just to sort of chill and do a little bit of admin while I was lying down. But it's coming up to just gone 12:15, gone past the midnight hour. So I'll probably make myself a brew and a nice hot drink, some sort of little snackety boo that's in my box, and then settle for the night. So it's a nice, clear, fresh but chilly Sunday morning. So I'm going to get some breakfast on the go now, get some calories inside me. Boiling the bag all day breakfast, and I'll probably use that water to add to my all-in-one coffee. As you're probably aware, the butane gas, even ones that have got a cold weather mixture, you can see I've just wrapped a piece of material around just to insulate, to get the main of the chill off, but obviously it takes longer to heat and the gas isn't as combustible when it's in cold weather. But hey ho, there you go. So I kept that in there just over 10 minutes, so it was about 12-13 minutes, so that is scorching hot, I can't even touch that. But I'm going to use the water for my brew. Job done. Normally I prefer to use separate water in my kettle. You know, there's talk about, you know, the chemicals leaching out the bag into the water, but there again, I'm eating out of the bag, so from the heating with the food inside that's obviously cooked in those bags. But I think for what it's worth, it's not a staple diet, I'm not doing it every day, so it's going to be pretty harmless using that water, if in theory there's anything that leaches out those bags, but they're normally quite good. But considering it's not a staple diet, and if in theory there is anything that could leach out the bags into the water, it's going to be absolutely minimal, and it's not really going to affect me at all. But I've got some digestive biscuits that I'm going to add to the all-day breakfast, because I've got no toast or bread and butter, that sort of thing, so that sort of just adds to the carbohydrate. So that was 2.5 digestive biscuits there, just crunched up. I'll mix that in, so that will just fill it up a little bit as well. Back to what I was saying about using that water for the coffee. Exactly the same mix before when I've used water fresh that's been boiled in the kettle, and that does taste a little bit different using that water from the saucepan that I did the all-day breakfast with. So if you're talking about taste buds, then fresh water in the kettle every time. So I've just been taking a little walk around this part of the woods that's near to my pitch, where I've been overnight. And originally I was actually going to do a version of a tarp tent, but then I wanted to be able to actually see what's around me. So of course, if you're enclosed, obviously if the temperatures were really low and the weather was really bad, then I'd totally encase myself in. But that wasn't my first choice. So considering, although the temperatures dropped, it was pretty mild, so I wanted to see the views around me until about 2 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't actually go stealth as such, but I did use the camo netting, as you've seen, on the sides, just to sort of screen and cut out the outline of the activity that goes on underneath the shelter. So anyone that might have been passing by, as far as you can see, beyond the tree line, at the furthest distance you can see, are some of the pathways, sort of 50, 100 metres away from me, and any wildlife that I could actually catch and monitor all around me. And there of course is my basher just there, which unless you're actually really looking for it, you're not really going to notice because it's blending in. So the open end of my tarp, where I was actually looking out, the entrance to it, there's least amount of access for the public, but there's a couple of wild animal tracks, and I noticed a few foxes last night and also roe deer, but I'm sort of slightly just offline of where my pitch is, just from the roe deer which I wanted to watch and monitor last night. And of course the end view of where the camo netting is, that's where the basher is, just there, as you can see, and it's the same the other side. So I wasn't specifically going stealth for the sake of stealth, as I've done in a few recent videos. So all the techniques and the setup was all low profile and what have you. I was just stealthy-ish due to the fact of why I was here, and the camo netting just sort of, as I say, blocking any movement outline, so it's not easy to notice. So this is the alignment of where normally a lot of the wildlife is, or some of their trails when they're nocturnal, their nighttime activity, and of course I was looking towards it where my shelter is, but you can notice I put up some angled pieces of wood, some deadfall, just at different angles. So it's not necessarily there as a sort of a physical deterrent for anybody passing by if their dogs go AWOL, but it is a bit of a block, and also sort of a deterrent for the eye line of any wildlife, and there's less tendency because they're going to go for the point of least resistance, more open spaces. So I'll take you around the circumference of my pitch. As crude as it is, it did its job. It had the required effect of what I wanted with the netting, with the openness so I can see all around me. It's easier to see out through the netting from inside than what it is from the outside in. And then just sort of like cutting out some of the straight lines. Obviously I can't do anything about the straight horizontal near enough edge of the tarp, but that's not really noticeable because it would actually marry in with all these other horizontal bits of wood that you can see that have fallen all around. So that's the method to the madness with that. But with the camo netting itself, rather than it just being a straight line, you can see where it's been draped. It just makes it look a little bit more natural with the contours of any deadfall or bushy overgrowth or undergrowth. Just near to my tarp basher setup, here's my old survival shelter I made with no tools and just foliage. So I uploaded that video about 4 or 5 years ago. But you can check that out as well, but obviously it's decayed and returned back to the earth. So I had to come out this weekend anyway for 24 hours to do a specific project, so I thought I'd just film some of the setup and share that with you as well. In relation to the first winter wild camp, the first week in December 2020, where those temperatures did drop, I'd say to about nearly -2 chill factor last night. But my layers and my Gore-Tex Bivvy did the job. So what I'm going to do now is strike down camp, and I should be able to make my way out of the woods just before it gets dark. I know the route anyway when it's dark, I've been here many times. It's quite nice, but I thought I'd just take it nice and easy, pack my stuff away. LNT, leave no trace. If you didn't know I was there, you wouldn't know I was there. So it's now just coming up to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, evening on Sunday. I can feel the chill getting back into the air now, so I think I'm going to put the old buff on the head, get that on my back, and make my way somewhere over there. So I'm loaded up, ready to go. So this was just a brief video, nothing technical, nothing absolute techno gizmo included in this video. It was just leisure time while I was out on this nature and wildlife monitoring project. So I'm hoping to get out again in the next couple of weeks, hopefully before Christmas and New Year festive break. People trying to enjoy it the best they can with all these restrictions that are going on, but obviously that's another story. I'm hoping maybe to get out in the canoe, providing the conditions of the rivers, particular river that I want to go on, for a couple of nights, and that'll be to do with another nature project, but I'll include some footage of what I get up to with that. But so I'm hoping to get out again for another winter jaunt. So at this point I'd like to add thanks for watching, really appreciate your interest, hope you deemed just some little bit of entertainment from this little outing, and I'll catch you in another video soon. Cheers. Take care.